Welcome to the African American Reading, 2026 African American Reading. This is being put on, co-sponsored by the Vision and Values Committee and BCS. We're very happy to have you here. We have a list of people who are going to read, and we also have an honored guest who I'm going to introduce in a moment. Um, Dr. Prelo, you want to say any opening words from BCS?
Thank you, Dr. Reed. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm just here to offer a very short promo. We are so honored to welcome our guest, Jeremy Gillett, but I also would be remiss if I didn't remind you all to please register for our Black Church Studies consultation if you have not. We're thankful for our communications team. A reminder went out today at 10 a.m. Our theme this week is Turn to Your Neighbor. So as we engage in preparing for our Black Church Studies consultation, let us remember to be prayerful. In addition, we welcome you to come with open minds, open spirits, and open hearts. So we look forward to our first event next week, which will be a panel on Tuesday, a lunch and learn with reflection from our faculty and staff members, reflecting on the theme from their scholarship and ministry experience. So we welcome you all, and I look forward to seeing you. Thank you.
So that the African American Reading is a chance for us to celebrate the culture, the history, the literature, the different types of artistic productions by African Americans. We're going to get to hear readings that are academic. We're going to get to hear readings that are fiction. We're going to get to hear poetry. And a very special thing we're going to get to hear that we don't normally get in the past few years is we're going to get a performance of sorts from uh, uh, our esteemed guest, Jeremy Gillett. He's a thought-provoking playwright, contemporary actor, and educator, and he is an assistant professor of acting at the University of Kentucky. He was a 2022 and 2021 semifinalist of the Bay Area Playwright Festival for his play, The Get Back. And now, the next person you're going to hear is Mr. Gillett.
Good afternoon. I count it as a pleasure anytime that I can share my gifts and talents that I've been blessed with in the arts in the theological space where I also have a calling. And so I want to thank all of those who have worked extremely hard to keep this venture going, who've invited me here. I met your president, Dr. Parlow, I think is Prelo, I'm sorry, Dr. Reed, Reverend Dr. Reed. I only know that from his signature. So, yeah, and everyone else that I have met today. I think this is a wonderful opportunity for all to learn about what it means to be Black in America. And during this time that we're in today, such a time as this where theology and the arts has the ability to impact thought on all of God's children. So yes, this is Black History Month, but what I understand about Black History Month is American history. And so if you are an American, then you have to understand Black history. And in order to understand Black history, you must understand what we once were as a country and what we are now. And if we never want to go back to what we once were, we have to understand where we have come from so that we don't make those same flagrant mistakes as Americans. Such a time as this to blend our theology and the arts. So today I'm going to speak, or not speak, I apologize, I guess in some level perform August Wilson. August Wilson is an established, or was an established playwright who wrote 10 plays that really depicted the 20th century Black experience. And so his plays that some of you all might know are Fences. Fences was famously done on Broadway by Denzel Washington. The role was originated by James Earl Jones, but Denzel, kind of in our space, is probably what you might know Fences for Denzel and Viola Davis, and it went on to go on Netflix. But that wasn't his biggest play. Right? August had a rich and in-depth connection to the Black experience, in which he had Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Jitney, 10 plays to really develop and depict what it meant to be Black in America during the 20th century. And so this play today, I performed How I Learned What I Learned. And it was a play that I produced in conjunction with my university that I work at, University of Kentucky. You know, sorry, side note. I'm supposed to act. I got you, Dr. Reed. But it's interesting. I'm from the University of Kentucky, and I'm in Louisville. You know, I see red out here, but I'm just so happy you all welcome me with this blue. You know, this sea of blue. You all understand. You know who really runs the state. So I'm happy to see this blue this morning. Thank you for your hospitality. So August was a controversial playwright in his time. And so in setting the stage for that level of controversy, I want to prepare your ears and your hearts and your minds and your spirits for what I will read today, which may be triggering for some. So in this text, you have words that represent the Black experience for the 20th century. You won't hear nigger, Nigger, in which August describes his relationships with his peers, but you will hear that in which he was described by white Americans during his time in Pittsburgh. You may hear some curse words, right? And so this is just a colloquial experience for August during the time in which he was walking this earth. And How I Learned What I Learned is an accumulation of all of his 10 play cycles, all of his plays, how he arrived at being this award-winning, Tony Award-winning playwright. And this is how he got here, How I Learned What I Learned. And if we have a little time, I too am a playwright. And so I want to put some of my work, because I believe that I represent the 21st century Black experience. Not the only one, not the only experience, but I am a part of that experience. And so my plays speak to what it means to be Black today. And what we all know about being Black is it's not one way to be Black, right? Hence Louisville fans and Kentucky fans. At its simplest form, it's not one way to be Black. And so I hope that I have just enough time to have a conversation with August, with one of the characters that I've written in my play, The Get Back, Joshua Thomas Northington III. But we'll start with August. This is a 2.5-hour play, 2 hours and 45 minutes. So I'm going to sit down and do different vignettes throughout this show that I think may resonate with you all today. The play starts with my ancestors. And see, my ancestors have been in America since the early 17th century. And for the first 244 years, we never had a problem finding a job. But since 1863, it's been hell. It's been hell because the ideas and attitudes that Americans had towards slaves followed them out of slavery and became entrenched in the nation's psyche. Ideas that said that Blacks were subhuman, that they were half of a man, that they were lazy, shiftless, watermelon eating, chicken thieves, chicken stealing, and thieves to boot. See, look here, man, what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad called the wilderness of North America. That is, after the civilized, polite Europeans had killed all the Indians. In the early 1900s, we cast down our buckets where they were, and they came up empty and filled with the blood and bile of countless murders and unwanted assaults against our persons. So we brought our buckets north, searching for jobs and opportunities to live life with dignity and whatever eloquence the heart could call upon. Now, my mother came from Spear, North Carolina in 1937 and settled in a neighborhood here in Pittsburgh called the Hill District. Now, the Hill District in 1937 was an amalgam of the unwanted. Blacks, Syrians, Jews, Italians, Irish, with each ethnic group seeking to cast off the vestiges of the old country. Changing names, changing manners, and giving a myriad of unlimited opportunities, changing economic circumstances, bludgeoning the malleable parts of themselves, melting into the pot, becoming and defining what it means to be an American. See, I met Fred Rogers once. I don't know who Fred Rogers is. I was coming out of WQED television station, and Fred Rogers stopped me, man. Look here. And he shook my hand, just like that. He looked at me and he said, "You're always welcome in this neighborhood, man." And you see, at the time, Fred Rogers has no idea what that meant to me, man. You see, because they weren't saying that in 1965 when we moved into Hazelwood off Flowers Avenue and they threw bricks into the window with a note tied around it saying, "Stay out, nigga." See, they weren't saying that when we moved and went to the Catholic Church. Oh, see, this is the ass wiper. See, when we went to the Catholic Church, man, in the Hill District, they had a priest. His name was, what was that man? Monsignor Connor. Monsignor Connor preached his now famous sermon, informing the parishioners that the Catholic Church in the Hill District was now going to be accepting Negroes as parishioners, and all those that didn't like it could leave the church. And the next Sunday, there wasn't nothing but 3 people in church. And you know who them 3 people are, don't you? It was 3 little old white ladies sitting right over there. You see, because they weren't concerned about sitting next to Negroes in church. As long as they got their cat food and the supermarket don't run out of cat food, hell, they doing all right. But you see, the Vatican was concerned about it. You see, because the Vatican saw St. Richard's Church drop from $2,000 a week to $137. Yeah. And that got the attention of the Catholic Church. And guess what? Monsignor Connor, he got fired. And see, that's when I knew, right there, excuse me, I got to move around. That's when I knew the Catholic Church was immoral. You see, Dr. Reed, because if they had any morality, he would have gotten a promotion. So who were these people that left the church? They were good, honest Americans, not unlike yourselves. Good, honest Americans who were concerned about protecting the position that they had earned in an American society. Good, honest Americans who were concerned about protecting their children, paying their mortgage. I mean, these are good, honest Americans who were victims of a linguistic environment that said, according to Webster's Third New International Dictionary, get this now, this is what the Webster's Dictionary said, that blacks were dishonest, outrageously wicked, sullen, hostile, connected with the devil, menacing, unqualified, violators of public regulation, and affected by an undesirable condition. Shit, I would have left the church too. Huh? I mean, come on now. Who wants to go to church and sit next to some outrageously wicked people who are connected with the devil and chicken thieves to boot, and who are menacing, hostile, and sullen? Especially if you were, hold on now, this is the ass wiper. According to Webster's Third New International Dictionary, and you were white, it says that you were outstandingly righteous, free from moral stain, impurity, innocent, not marked by malignant influence, notably auspicious, fortunate, decent, sterling. Damn. You see, every child acquires the language, eating habits, notions towards common sense, the attitudes towards sex, and the ideas of pleasure and pain from the people who raised them. You see, these ideas have followed us from generation to generation. And they're an inheritance unworthy of our grandchildren. But yet these ideas are still around today. Think about that. You know what? I'm going to share this with you. I was just at a fundraising event at the Huntington Theater. All right. That's a big time theater, okay? And a man walked up to me. He shook my hand. He said, "Mr. Wilson, you know, I don't see color." You know, I had heard this 1,000 times, right? But I was sick of hearing it. So I looked at him and I said, "Well, sir, did you tell that gentleman over there that?" And I pointed to a white man. And he looked at me. And I said, "Okay, did you tell that gentleman back there that?" And I pointed to another white man. And he looked at me, eyes all big. And I said, "Well, since you don't see color, sir, why out of all the people in the room did you walk up to me and say that?" Shit, he got mad, looked at me and said, "I'm being sensitive." And he stormed and walked out. You see, what he really was saying was that he was willing to accept my humanity as long as he could ignore my color. That he was willing to accept me as long as I wore a t-shirt on the front that said I'm supposed to be white, and on the back that said I'm an accident by my birth. See, you know, an accident is when something goes wrong, people. You know, like I might have a friend of mine, and he's been in a car accident, and he breaks his arm. And I see him and I say, "Oh man, damn, Joe. Shit, I'm sorry that happened to you, man." You see, when you're black, people will look at you. White people will look at you and they'll walk up to you and say, "Damn, I'm sorry that happened to you. Because otherwise, you're a decent person." So what happened to me? Huh? What happened to me is the question. What makes them want to say sorry to me? We are not black by the accidents of our births, people. Our births are moments of profound creativity engineered by our genetic muscle as it aspires towards perfection. I grew up in the Hill Arts District in 1965. I want to tell you a little bit about the Hill Arts District. The Hill Arts District was a community of 55,000 people. That was 54,997 blacks and them 3 little old ladies. Look at, but catch this now. Using the statistics by which you measure a people's health, per capita income, life expectancy, infant mortality rate, the Hill District in 1955 was a third world country. And yet, it was just a 5-minute walk to downtown Pittsburgh and its luxuries of opportunity. Now, let me tell you something. The Hill District, despite all of that, was a vibrant, if not thriving community. There are 9 drugstores, all of which were within a 5-minute walk of each other. You had Taxi Drugs, Jay's Drugs, Hills Drugs, Mid-Center Pharmacy, all these drugstores. And we had 3 wallpaper yards. We had a junkyard. We had a paint shop. We had 2 grocery stores. And get this now. 82 churches, 1 supermarket, the Mainway supermarket. I got to tell you about the Mainway. Now, the Mainway supermarket was the one and only supermarket in our neighborhood. But it was the supermarket and the first building that burned during the riots. Now, why would 54,997 black people burn the only supermarket in their neighborhood? You see, because it was a racist supermarket. They were mean to us, they overcharged us, and they didn't want us in their store. So it was the first to go. Now, I know what you're thinking because I'm sitting here talking all this shit to you. You're just thinking I'm burnt. I burnt the Mainway, ain't you? I know what you're thinking. I didn't burn the Mainway. It wasn't me. No matter what they tell you, August didn't do it. But it is true that I had my picture taken standing in front of the smoldering ruins of the Mainway supermarket. But I did not burn down the Mainway. Hey, there are 4 streets: Bedford Avenue, 4 streets. My sister lived at 1727 Bedford Avenue. My mother lived at 1526 Bedford Avenue. My sister and my mother were my cornerstone. 4 streets: Bedford Avenue, Wiley, Webster, and Center Avenue. Now, Center Avenue is what we call the set, the main drag, the stage where life is played out. Now, at any given moment, you're liable to see 200 people standing on the corner on the set. 200 black people just standing there. What they doing? They looking for opportunity. You see, because the opportunity afforded to them was drugs, alcohol, murder, and sex. But they didn't have that opportunity that our fellow white people had. You know, them opportunities to get a job at a clothing store. You know, the opportunity to take over your father's business. The opportunity for social or public or psychological or educational advancement. The only opportunity we had in 1955 on the was to kill each other and then get high afterwards. That's where I come from. Now see, Here's the problem I have today. These young people who are Black, they don't understand where their ancestors come from. And see, I believe that's why we're having a lot of trouble we having in our community. Because they don't know August Wilson didn't wake up and be a Tony Award winning playwright. They don't know I didn't wake up and live in Seattle in a 7-bedroom house. They don't know I've come from real struggle. My mama came from real struggle. They mamas, grannies, their great grannies, their grandfathers, people have come from struggle. And they don't value the struggle unanimously the way they need to. I was talking to this one boy, and I want you to hear his story because it's interesting. I want you to hear his story. He's living today. His name is Joshua. Joshua, tell him about yourself. As I tell my story, I can feel her shame. I can see her tears. I can feel his bone-deep bitterness as I push these words out of my mouth. Now, my childhood home was a TV manifestation of any happy family you might care to see. Yes, we could have been the Huxtables. Yes, we could have been the Black version of the Brady Bunch, including a maid and a housekeeper. I mean, we were one of those Black, wholesome families, middle American families with 2.5 kids, a strong, understanding dad, a loving mom, and lots of hugs and kisses and elaborate vacations and loving grandparents. I mean, I was that little boy living in the suburbs. And when I introduced myself, I said, hello, my name is Joshua Thomas Northington III, JT to my family and Trey to my friends. You know, I heard myself called precious. Someone called me precious almost from the day I could string together sentences. Isn't he precious, our little JT, old precious JT? A tag from my well-kept days as a suburban youth. So, how did I end up in jail? Simple. I grew to hate that little brown boy from the suburbs. I grew to hate him with greater and greater intensity. He knew nothing, he had nothing, and he was going to be nothing. I grew to hate how boring it was. I grew to hate the sameness of it all. You know, my mother would wake up and give me a kiss, and then she'd drive an hour away to a little office on the Strip. Her name was on the door, followed by the letters DDS. Every day, she kissed me and drove off. She came back at night, kissed me again, and talked about crowns, gold fillings, fake teeth, and fucking silver braces. And I thought, what the fuck, you know? What's the real difference between wearing a white coat and cleaning someone's teeth and wearing a white apron and cleaning someone's house? You're still working for the white folks. I didn't get it. And see, that's the problem I had with these young people. He don't get it. But the question is, why don't the little motherfucker get it? Tell him why you didn't get it. All I could see and understand at that age was that I wanted to hurt my bougie sellout parents. And I wanted to be like my other family. I wanted to fit in at family reunions and be liked by my mom's youngest brother and my dad's first cousin. Those were my true heroes, not my parents, who seemed to want to stay as far away from anything Black and brown on this earth. For example, after family gatherings, My parents came home and took the longest baths and showers for a week, as if they were bathing away the contact, scrubbing, I mean, literally scrubbing away the memories. I see. I didn't get that my dad was an owner in a construction company that bore his name and initials. I didn't get that we were not the Jeffersons. We didn't have to move up to the east side. I was born on the east side. I didn't get that I was Theo Huxtable and all I had to do was ask. All I can see at that age was I wanted to hurt my bougie sellout parents. So when my uncle and cousin came calling with an opportunity to help them with their business when I was in college, shit, I jumped. I mean, I only had 2 years to go and we were living off campus, so I thought, what the fuck, it would work, and it did. And we had lots and lots of business, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And 2 years later, there I sat. Where? In my cell. In time for drug trafficking with the intent to distribute. Ironically enough, my parents paid for the services of the one and only Bernard A. Cunningham, Esquire. Thus, I came out better than my uncle and cousin, who were represented by a court-appointed attorney. How did I get there, you ask again? My answer remains the same. I fell in love. I fell in love with the music, the women, and the cash and the flash, and loved it when my uncle and cousin said my parents had changed, that they weren't real black folks anymore. Real black folks have to make it on these streets, they said. Real black folks have each other's backs, they said. I love my sister, but she ain't real to me anymore, shorty. I love my cousin, but he ain't real to me anymore, Holmes. You real to me, shorty. You real to me, Holmes. Hang in there. We got your back. So as I sat in that cell, the only thing I could think about was my mother's favorite song, Strange Fruit. Strange fruit was all around me, not hanging from a tree, but housed like wild animals, roaming and seeking whom to devour. For now, my rage at myself, uncle and cousin, keeps me warm and safe. It seeps through my veins and gives me comfort and safety. The mask I wore protected me. It hid me. It kept me safe. I am no Walter Lee. I am no longer Theo Huxtable. I am the dream deferred. And at 25, 2026, I'm finally discovering my true identity. Now see, that's some shit. That's deep and it's wide. Now I imagine if he would have understood where he came from, Joshua wouldn't have done no shit like that. And I don't mean like a little peewee up here. I mean where his daddy came from, where his granddaddy came from, where his mama and where his grandmother came from. See, they don't understand where we come from. And get this, this is the shit that's killer. They passing laws so they can't learn it no more. Oh, y'all ain't there with me yet, are you? There's laws being passed so the next peewee can't learn about slavery. Can't read Fences by August Wilson. Can't learn where they come from so they know and understand where they at. That's what we're dealing with today. And so I gotta ask you, what is the church's responsibility in where our society is and where we're headed? See, I got a house full of scholars, doctors, teachers, lay people, community people. What is the role of the church today? Because see, in my day, the Catholic Church abandoned me. But in their abandonment, we got stronger. But today, they don't know the things I knew about myself, about my mother's struggle. So how is the Presbyterian, the Catholic, the disciples of Christ, Latter-day Saints, Methodists, what are you going to do today? Because there's some real shit happening. It's some real shit. I'm going to show you something. African in America. Now, this is going to contextualize what I just said for you. You see, because Black people, we are people who crowd the popcorn counter. Right? Hey, he's with me. All right, Reed. Now, white people, what they do? They form a line. One white person will be here, and then two, and then three, and four, and five. And there'll be a space between them and the popcorn counter. And so a Black person will go right to the empty space. Now get this. Now, sure enough, we know how to stand in line, right? And then somebody will say, excuse me, sir, there's a line back here. And yeah, we see there's a line. We know it's a line, but it's just against everything because we're different people. One time, I wasn't walking through the store. And you know how they got them big screen TVs hanging up? I sat and I watched. Look at these big screen TVs. Two white guys walk in, they look at the big screen TV, and they say, man, how many inches do you think that is? They go on by. Two Black guys come up, look at the same TV now. And they say, hey, Joe, how much you think that weigh? I mean, we're looking at the same TV, but we say two different things. I was in a bus station in Minneapolis one time, right? Waiting for the bus. And there were 6 Japanese American men having breakfast. Now, they sat there, talked politely amongst themselves. One of them even stood up and took a few pictures. And I learned from their conversation that they were taking the Greyhound bus across country to go to college. Now, here's the thing. They could all afford a first-class ticket to fly, but they taking the bus because they having an adventure. They want an experience. And after the food came and they ate it, they all reached in their pocket, grabbed their American Express cards, and paid the bill. So I asked myself, you see, I'm a writer. I said, now, August, if that was 6 Black guys having breakfast in here, what would have been the difference? Now, the first thing I noticed is none of the Japanese men played the jukebox. 6 Black guys, first thing they gonna do, they gonna walk over and put a quarter in the jukebox, right? And they're gonna be looking for his quarter, looking for his song, and then one of his buddies gonna come up and say, "Hey, Ray, play so and so." And Ray gonna say, "No, man, get your own quarter, play your own music." She with me? Now the second thing I noticed, here we go. None of the Japanese American men said anything to the waitress. Now, 6 black guys, shit, I don't care what she looked like. Somebody gonna say something to the waitress now. "Hey, baby, how you doing? My name's Joe. Can I get your phone number?" And as Joe's talking, Ray gonna come in and say, "No, that nigga can't read. Give me your phone number." Right? Now get this here. Then when Ray go over and play his music, somebody gonna reach on his plate, take his bacon, eat his bacon up. And then when Ray come back, he gonna say, "Man, I told you niggas stay out my food." And then so on and so on and so on. Now to the white people observing this, they probably said to themselves, "They rude, they loud, they don't like each other. One guy stole another guy's piece of bacon. They harass the waitress. My goodness, these guys are scary." So to the white person observing the black men, everything we do is wrong. Now, you can bring 6 Chinese men in and they'll do it differently. You can bring 6 men from the Czech Republics and they'll do it differently. They'll do it differently than the Japanese men and the black men. But here's the ass wiper. America accepts the way the Czechs from the Czech Republics does things differently. It accepts the way the Japanese do things differently. It accepts the way the Chinese do things differently. But black people are supposed to act like them. America says you all still haven't learned the way we do things here. And see, that's the problem with America. We supposed to act like we white. And the moment we act how we are and how we feel, we criminals or we wrong. Put that shit under your hat. I got a friend of mine. He wanted to be a DJ. No. He's the best guy I know for music. He know all kinds of music. And down at the radio station, they was hiring a disc jockey. So he went down there and he applied for the job. Went in, earned his tune, did his best work, had everybody in the neighborhood excited about the music that day. He'd come back and he'd tell us they didn't hire me. And he was down. And I said, you know why they didn't hire you, don't you? He said, "Why?" I said, "Because you're outrageously wicked. You're menacing, you're hostile, you're sullen, and you're affected by an undesirable condition." He said, "August, you right about that." Hey, look here, I think it's about my time, but I'm gonna give you something I think is important to know. Now, by this time, this excerpt I'm gonna read from you, I was already established as August Wilson. You understand? I was already a Tony Award winner, Broadway playwright. Everybody in America knew my name at this time who had anything to do with the arts. So I'm in Los Angeles. We know what Los Angeles is known for, don't we? It's known for a lot of things, but in my context, the entertainment business. So I was in Los Angeles one time, and I got a check from the Mark Taper Forum. Now, Mark Taper Forum is a huge theater in Los Angeles. I got a check from them for $750. And I took that check down to the bank in which Mark Taper Forum had drawn the check. And the bank was right around the corner from the Mark Taper Forum. Now, the Mark Taper Forum banks about $13 million a year at this bank. So I thought there's no other bank I should go to. So I go to that bank and I walk to the counter and I put my check down and I take my identification out and I slide it under the window. And the lady picks up my check and she said, "Where'd you get this check?" And I said, "I got the check from the Mark Taper Forum." She took my ID and she said, "Where'd you get this ID?" I said, "It's a Washington State ID. That's where I lived." And she looked me in my eyes and she said, "Well, give me just a minute." So she walked around the corner, knock on the door. I guess this is her boss's office. And as she's knocking on the door, she's looking at me. You see now, when I go to the bank, I try not to stand behind Black people in the line. See, because I know the line gonna get held up, right? Because they double, triple, and quadruple check everything, right? So after about 5 minutes, she comes out with a man, and the man doesn't come over to where I am. He just stands back and he looks at me, and he has this big log book, and he's turning the pages through the book. And I notice as they turn in the pages, the book is a book that contains photographs of all official state IDs. Now, it took them a while, but they finally found Washington State. And they're looking at it, and they looking at me, and they look at it, and they look at me. And then finally, the lady comes over to me, and she says, "Yes, everything's in the right place. Yes, this is your ID. We're going to have to give this nigger this $750. Now I'm standing right there. Los Angeles, California, Mark Taper Forum. So the woman came and she counted the $750 for me. 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so on. And then she stood there and just looked at me. And I said, "Well, can I have an envelope?" She looked down at the money and she said, "We don't give envelopes at this bank." And I asked myself, looking at her, I said, "Now, August, is this shit worth dying over?" I said, "No, it ain't worth dying over. Take your money, August, and go on back." So I take my money. 2 weeks later, I get another check from Mark Taper Forum, and I go back to the same bank. I go to the same teller's line, but this time she's not there. There's another teller. So I present my identification and I present my check, and the teller looks at my check, looks at my identification, and she hands me my money. And I said, "Well, may I have an envelope, please?" She reached under the desk and she gave me an envelope. And I said, "Well, wait a minute. I thought you all didn't give envelopes at this bank." She said, "Well, who told you that?" I said, "Well, the lady last week told me you all don't give envelopes at this bank." She said, "I don't know what the lady told you, but there's your envelope, sir. You're holding up my line." See, this is the thing. She thinks it's a little thing, the lady who didn't give me my envelope. She thinks it's a little thing that she didn't give me my envelope, but
It's not a little thing. She looked at a man and said, this man does not deserve the same treatment as other men. This man does not deserve the same respect as other men deserve. And that's the sin that caused slavery. I'm going somewhere with this. You see, so when she died and she go to heaven, oh shit, when she died and she stand before God, God's gonna say to her, he gonna say, now you pushed your little sister down the stairs in 3rd grade. I forget that. You ran over your neighbor's dog when you were 9. You embezzled money from the church. You fucked your brother-in-law. But I forgive and understand all that. But you lied to that man about not having an envelope and ain't thought nothing else about it. You didn't think nothing about what me, God, was going to have to say about that. You were willing to put a mark on your soul over a goddamn envelope. So guess what I, as God, say? Go to hell. And that's exactly what I told her. Now, I would like to tell you that when we come up to this part in the show, I would just say the part and tell a story. But I couldn't just say the part and tell a story because the shit still happens to me today. And I'm performing for mostly white people. White people coming, paying to see August Wilson perform and paying to see August's show. Now, how in the world does a black man have a white and black audience, but I'm still not seen as equal outside of this theater? I'm talking about principles, people. How are you going to live your life? What are you going to stand on? What are your principles? See, because when you have principles, you don't do unto others what you would not want done unto yourself. My name is August Wilson. I thank you for letting me be here with you today. And I hope that whoever hears these words, whatever section of the world you go to, let's fight to bring this show, this message to your space. Thank you, Louisville Seminary, Presbyterian Seminary, and all those involved with bringing me here. Go UK.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
That was amazing, man.
Thank you.
Oh, this is all. There we go. That was amazing. That was great. Thank you very much. Did y'all hear I'm sure everyone's keeping track of the times he was quoting Esther in his introductory part. Everyone heard that, right? I knew you did that on purpose. There we go. All right, so we had that special treat that was amazing. We don't normally have a performance, and you really not only brought that in, but you brought us into your performance. Thank you very much for that. We have a list of people who signed up, and each of them is going to get a chance to read. There's a few people who signed up and aren't going to be able to do it. So in terms of time, that means that you have about 4 minutes. So if you had something longer, I want you to read 4 minutes of what you've got. I'm gonna try to find people when you're up next, so I can tap you on your shoulder and make sure you know you're up next. So right now, Dr. Prelo, you want to go last? uh, okay, if you want to. All right. Thank you. So we're going to have Dr. Prelo do a reading, and I need to find Arthur O'Bannon. Okay, then I'll find whoever's next on the list. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to read this very short passage, less than 4 minutes. Hear these words. The goals of Jesus' movement, ministry, and politics is a new creation, a political order that truly serves the good of all in equal measures. Those who strive to practice Jesus' politics must always keep that at the focus of our prayers and our compassion, of our love and most faithful social action. It is not optional. It is required of every follower of Jesus. He declared as much in terms that left no doubt. Whoever is not with me is against me. Matthew 12:30. That is to say, if you do not work for or in some real way support the establishment of God's kingdom of love and justice, then your silence and your inactivity ultimately serves the forces of injustice. It will not be easy. It seems that every aspect of today's political culture militates against the gospel's call for truth, honesty, and sincere service in the public square. But this is as Jesus foretold it. I send you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. You will be dragged before governors and kings for my sake to bear testimony before them. This means that in every political setting, the true followers of Jesus will be called forth to speak truth to power and to find power in the truth. Even as many strut about profoundly, wearing their faith like crowns, the true followers of Jesus must hold dear his cross of self-sacrificial love. All of this requires more than simply hearing his name. These things we must do if at the sunset of our lives we are to be counted among those who truly try to love our neighbors as ourselves by living the politics of he who died so others might live. Jesus, the Messiah, Jesus, the lover of humanity, Jesus, the political revolutionary. Aubrey Hendricks, The Politics of Jesus. Speaking of which, he is our featured speaker for our conclusion of our Black Church Studies banquet. If you have not registered, you have until Tuesday, February 17th. Please join us to hear more about the politics of Jesus in times like these. Thank you.
Dr. Aubrey Hendricks is a New Testament professor. This is one book that's about politics. He's got others that are about politics. He's the things that he has to say are very relevant to what's going on in the world. He's intentional about that, and he's very good at it. So another promotion for the chance to hear him on next Friday. So a week from today. All right. Is Nathaniel Stewart here? Okay. Chance. After us, it's you, okay? All right. So I'm going to do a poem that was mentioned during the performance. It's Harlem by Langston Hughes. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Or does it fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat? Or crust and syrup over like a sugary sweet? Maybe it sags like a heavy load. or does it explode? I'm going to do one more poem, the one I had planned on doing, and then Justice is going to do a poem. This is Sympathy by Paul Laurence Dunbar. I know how the cage bird feels, alas, when the sun is bright on the upland slopes, when the wind stirs soft through springing grass and the river flows like a stream of glass, when the first bird sings and the first bud opes and the faint perfume from its chalice steals, I know how the cage bird feels. I know why the cage bird beats its wing till its blood is red on the cruel bars. For he must fly back to his perch and cling when he fain would be on a bow a swing, and the pain still clings in the old scars, and it pulses again with a keener sting. I know why he beats his wing. I know why the cage bird sings, alas, I know why the cage bird sings, alas, when its wing is bruised and its bosom sore. When he beats his wing and he would be free, it is not a song of joy or glee, but a prayer that he sends from his heart's deep core, but a plea that upward to heaven he flings. I know why the cage bird sings. All right, Justice, you ready? I hope this is the right move. This what makes it go down? All right, there we go. Justice, on this right there. This is Only Just a Minute by Benjamin Elijah Mays. Be loud. You got it.
Only just a minute, only 60 seconds in it. What's the pony can't refuse a dinner ticket. Shoot it, but it's after me to use it. I will suffer if I lose it. Be careful if I use it. Just a tiny little minute, but the truth in it.
All right, Chance, you're up next.
Something else. That's not very fair. I mean, taking the stage after justice is not fair for me. Good afternoon. I am Chance, but now I am not going to speak. Africa will speak. Well, I have a few parts. I wrote this especially for this occasion. I did write it. I didn't copy it from anywhere. So especially for this, after this, it is gone. Right. So I am Africa. I said I am Africa. Yes, I am African. I take care of my children, my children's children, my children's children, and my children's children's, and children's. All of them. I take care of them. All of them are mine. I hold them in the cradle of the mountains, wrap them in the shell of ancient trees. Their laughter runs through my rivers. Their dreams ride in my dawn. I know them by their names. I know them by everybody names. Yes, I know them by names. Wherever they go, across oceans, across borders, into cities that forget the sound of dreams and drums. Still, I know them by their names. But you will know them by their hard work, by the fire in their hands, by the rhythm in their walk, by the courage stitched into their stories. They carry my spirit in their bones, my sunlight in their eyes, my resilience in their heartbeats. And those all over the world, especially those in America, they have been called many names. Names meant to shrink them, names meant to confuse them, names meant to make them forget the taste of home. But the name that makes them smile, the name that lifts their chin, the name that hums like a drum in the cities, is African American. The name is African American. That is what they are called, and that is who they are. I love them too much because that is what they are, and they are mine. I am Africa. I pray for them. I hold them in spirit. Though oceans lie between us, their triumph echo in my valleys, their struggles tremble in my wings. Some were told they are cursed, trapped in the unfair story of Noah. Read that part of Noah, read that part of text carefully. You will discover the truth and you will understand. Mine are the most blessed. Blessed in endurance, blessed in brilliance, blessed in the strength that refuses to break, blessed in the rising again and again and again. And hear this, they belong. Wherever they are, whatever they have become, they belong. My time. Some were born away from me. Some have never physically seen me. Some have only touched me through stories, through memories, through the whispers of their elders. But my spirit lives with them. The music they sing reflects me. The rhythm they move to is the echo of my heartbeat. The soul in their voice is the sound of my rivers. That is their identity. It is in their DNA, and no one, and none can take that from them. I remember every child, every hope, every prayer whispered in my soul, and as long as they rise, I rise with them. I am Africa. As long as they breathe, I breathe with them, wherever they are. As long as they walk this earth, I am never forgotten. I am Africa. I am Africa. I am Africa. Thank you.
Good afternoon. The mic is always too high for me. So I usually have a hard time deciding what to read, but this year I knew straight away that I wanted to read the conclusion of Cornel West's Democracy Matters. So please listen for a word of wisdom. In our postmodern world of pervasive consumerism and hedonism, narcissism and cynicism, skepticism and nihilism, the Socratic love of wisdom and prophetic love of justice may appear hopeless. Who has not felt overwhelmed by dread and despair when confronting the atrocities and barbarities of our world? And surely a cheap optimism or trite sentimentalism will not sustain us. We need a blood-stained Socratic love and tear-soaked prophetic love fueled by a hard-won tragicomic hope. Our democratic fight against corrupt elite power needs the vital strength provided by the Black American invention of the blues. The blues is the most profound interpretation of tragicomic hope in America. The blues encourages us to confront the harsh realities of our personal and political lives unflinchingly, without innocent sentimentalism or cold-hearted cynicism. The blues forgets a mature hope that fortifies us on the slippery tightrope of Socratic questioning and prophetic witness in imperial America. This Black American interpretation of tragicomic hope is rooted in a love of freedom. It proceeds from a free, inquisitive spirit that highlights imperial America's weak will to racial justice. It is a sad yet sweet indictment of abusive power and blind greed run amok. It is a melancholic yet melioristic stance toward America's denial of its terrors and horrors heaped on others. It yields a courage to hope for betterment against the odds without a sense of revenge or resentment. It reveals in a dark joy of freely thinking, acting, and loving under severe constraints of unfreedom. I have always marveled at how such an unfree people as Blacks in America created the freest forms in America, such as blues and jazz. I have often pondered how we victims of American democracy invented such odes to democratic individuality and community as in the blues and jazz. And I now wonder whether American democracy can survive without learning from the often untapped democratic energies and lessons of Black Americans. How does one affirm a life of mature autonomy while recognizing that evil is inseparable from freedom? How does one remain open and ready for meaningful solidarity with the very people who hate you? Frederick Douglass and Bessie Smith, Ida B. Wells Barnett and Duke Ellington, Sarah Vaughan and Martin Luther King Jr., Ella Baker and Louis Armstrong, all are wise voices in a deep democratic tradition in America that may provide some clue to these crucial questions in our time. They all knew that even if the tears of the world are a constant quantity and that the air is full of our cries, we can and should still embark on a democratic quest for wisdom, justice, and freedom. This kind of tragicomic hope is dangerous and potentially subversive because it can never be extinguished. Like laughter, dance, and music, it is a form of elemental freedom that cannot be eliminated or snuffed out by any elite power. Instead, it is inextricably resilient and inescapably seductive, even contagious. It is wedded to a long and rich tradition of humanist pursuits of wisdom, justice, and freedom, from Amos through Socrates to Ellison. The high modern moments in this tradition, Shakespeare, Beethoven, Chekhov, Coltrane, enact and embody a creative weaving of the Socratic, prophetic, and tragicomic elements into profound interpretations of what it means to be human. These three elements constitute the most sturdy democratic armor available to us in our fight against corrupt elite power. They represent the best of what has been bequeathed to us and what we look like when we are at our best as deep Democrats and as human beings. This lowercase democratic armor allows us to absorb any imperial and xenophobic blows, yet still persist. It permits us to face any anti-democratic foe and still persevere. It encourages us to fight any form of dogma and still endure. It only requires that we be true to ourselves by choosing to be certain kinds of human beings and democratic citizens indebted to a deep democratic tradition and committed to keeping it vital and vibrant. This democratic vocation, wedded to an unstoppable predilection for possibility, may not guarantee victory, but it does enhance the probability of hard-won progress. And if we lose our precious democratic experiment, let it be said that we went down swinging, like Ella Fitzgerald and Muhammad Ali, with style, grace, and a smile that signifies that the seeds of democracy matters will flower and flourish somewhere and somehow, and remember our gallant efforts.
Good afternoon. I chose to read today excerpts from an address by Frederick Douglass, whose chosen birthday is tomorrow on February 14th. This is from a speech called The Lessons of the Hour, and it was delivered in Washington, D.C. in 1894. I propose to give you a colored man's view of the unhappy relations at present existing between the white and colored people of the United States of our Union. We have had the Southern white man's view of the subject. It has been presented with abundant repetition and with startling emphasis, colored by his peculiar environments. We have also had the Northern white man's view, tempered by time, distance from the scene, and his higher civilization. This kind of evidence may be considered by some as all sufficient upon which to found an intelligent judgment of the whole matter in controversy, and that therefore my testimony is not needed. But experience has taught us that it is sometimes wise and necessary to have more than the testimony of two witnesses to bring out the whole truth, especially in this case, where one of the witnesses has a powerful motive for concealing or distorting the facts in any given case. I shall fearlessly submit my testimony to the candid judgment of all who hear me. I shall do so in the firm belief that my testimony is true. Do not ask me what will be the final result of the so-called Negro problem. I cannot tell you. I have sometimes thought that the American people are too great to be small, too just and magnanimous to oppress the weak. But events have made me doubtful. Strange things have happened of late and are still happening. Some of these tend to dim the luster of the American name and chill the hopes once entertained for the cause of American liberty. When the moral sense of a nation begins to decline and the wheel of progress to roll backward, there is no telling how low the one will fall or where the other may stop. But how can this problem be solved? I will tell you how it cannot be solved. It cannot be solved by keeping the Negro poor, degraded, ignorant, and half-starved, as I have shown is now being done in the Southern states. It cannot be solved by keeping back the wages of the laborer by fraud, as is now being done by the landlords of the South. It cannot be done by ballot box stuffing, by falsifying election returns, or by confusing the Negro voter by cunning devices. It cannot be done by repealing all federal laws enacted to secure honest elections. It can, however, be done, and very easily done, for where there's a will, there's a way. Let the white people of the North and South conquer their prejudices. Let them give up the idea that they can be free while making the Negro a slave. Let them give up the idea that to degrade the colored man is to elevate the white man. Let them cease putting new wine into old bottles and mending old garments with new cloth. They are not required to do much. They are only required to undo the evil that they have done.
Good afternoon. I'll be reading from the 1619 Project, from the chapter written by Hannah Nicole, and from the chapter called Democracy. Now, I think this is particularly important and relevant as this is the nation's 250th anniversary. Is that right? We're in that now. So I think this has relevance. So I'll be reading excerpts from this chapter. My dad, she says, always flew an American flag in our front yard. The blue paint on our two-story house was sometimes chipped. The fence or the rail by the stairs or the front door might occasionally fall into disrepair, but that flag always flew pristine. Our corner lot, which had been redlined by the federal government, was along the river that divided the black side from the white side of our Iowa town. At the edge of our lawn, high on an aluminum pole, soared the flag, which my dad would replace with a new one as soon as it showed the slightest tatter. So when I was young, that flag outside of our home never made sense to me. How could this Black man, having seen firsthand the way his country abused Black Americans, the way it refused to treat us as full citizens, proudly fly its banner? My father had endured segregation in housing and school discrimination in employment and harassed by the police. He was one of the smartest people I knew. And yet, by the time I was a work-study student in college, I was earning more in an hour than he did. I didn't understand his patriotism. It deeply embarrassed me. Like most people, you see, I thought I understood so much, when in fact I understood so little. My father knew exactly what he was doing when he raised that flag. He knew that our people's contributions to the building of the richest and most powerful nation in the world were indelible, that the United States simply would not exist without us. The United States is a nation founded on both an ideal and a lie. Our Declaration of Independence, approved on July 4th, 1776, proclaims that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. But when white men who drafted those words did not believe them to be true, for the hundreds and thousands of Black people in their midst, a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness did not include fully 1/5 of the new country. Yet, despite being violently denied the freedom and justice promised to all, Black Americans believed fervently in the American creed. Through centuries of Black resistance and protest, we have helped this country live up to its founding ideals. And not only for ourselves, Black rights struggles paved the way for every other rights struggle, including women's and gay rights, immigrant and disability rights. Without the idealistic, strenuous, and patriotic efforts of Black Americans, our democracy today would look very different. In fact, our country might not be a democracy at all. One of the very first to die in the American Revolution was a Black and indigenous man named Crispus Attucks, who himself was not free. In 1770, Attucks lived as a fugitive from slavery, yet he became a martyr for liberty in a land where his own people would remain enslaved for almost another century. In every war in this nation that this nation has waged since that first one, Black Americans have fought. Today, we are the most likely of all racial groups to serve in the United States military. So my father, one of those many Black Americans who answered the call, knew what it would take me years to understand, that the year 1619 is as important in the American story as 1776. That Black Americans, as much as those men cast in alabaster in the nation's capital, are this nation's true founding fathers. And that no people has a greater claim to that flag than we do.
This is a poem by Eshan Hutchinson, a Jamaican poet, from his first collection in 2010, called The Far District. And this poem, Eshan now teaches at Cornell University. This poem is called The Mother Portrait. A couple of glosses. Nyame is a Twi or Akan word from Ghana, from a Ghanaian language. And Nyame means God or child of God. Obia is a spiritual practice in Jamaica, not to be confused with Voodoo or Santeria. It's an everyday kind of spiritual practice, marked sometimes by the presence of duppies, sometimes supportive, sometimes dangerous, who are spirits of the dead who wander in the night. A coolie duppy is an East Indian ghost. East Indians, as you may know, were brought by the British as indentured servants to work in cane fields in the West Indies after the abolition of British abolition of enslavement there. Nothing else needs glossing, I think. Naomi, my mother, you are sick. I am afraid, as if I were in darkness and slit white eyes are mocking me. The healer woman says you've been marked, that your enemy put a coolie duppy on you. So mornings when the basil rise in the nose, the duppy is outside. Naomi, why you? You never trouble people. You don't hang with the rumhead district women on the plaza, cutting eyes, lapping skirts on people's business whole day. They call you things. I hear them. Lady of the night, ninny, bird. The dish towel names hang on fences to quail in the sun for all to see. What wrong you caused? What damage? Is it us, your too precious, that you boast of? Our father who ran away to the streets of England, we who wear shoes out of the once in a blue moon parcel to school and eat out of crockery and must not romp with the village picnic. Naomi, did I fertilize their envy and push their hands to Obia? To watch you turn fool, mad woman running across yards, chased by a white hair, shrill voice, coolie duppy. Naomi, I see you sick and hurting, and I can't help you. I afraid to look in your eyes or touch you, my own mother. It kills to watch your mouth corner, froth, and dry with the sickness, the strong smell of healer's portions in your skin, oil in your creases, in your ears and neck, and your wrists tied to the bed, vomit on your bosom, blood in your torn hair, fury in your grunts and screams. Naomi, my mother, you are sick, but you are not dead, not yet, though that horror is in your eyes, and I piss myself like a boy who's lost and hungry in the night swamp where morning will not light. Oh God, Naomi, I am too weak, and I am watching you dying while my sister sleeps on the floor, her dreams troubled by the opened vials. Father, hear me now. Take me. Leave my mother for the other child. Thank you.
This is from a book by Crystal Wilkinson, who's an author and a poet. And I first saw her on KET recently, which is how I heard of her. And she's poet laureate of Kentucky, and I believe is a university professor at one time and winner of several awards. After her mother's breakdown, Francine burned all her dolls on the rubbish pile in the backyard. It seemed like the thing to do at the time, putting girlish things behind her. But then she saw a girl in her neighborhood playing with dolls on the porch in the afternoons. That's when she divided herself into two Francines. Francine Vernon, the lady of the house, looking after herself like a grown woman, and another Francine Vernon, hidden between her breasts, lurking somewhere beneath her ribs, curled up into the girl she was, longing for the rubbery touch of baby dolls in her hands. Years later, when Sonny Clark, with his drawl and rust-colored complexion, came to the Kentucky Derby and bypassed all the pretty light-skinned girls to get to her, Francine knew her escape was finally within reach. She wasn't soft-eyed about Sonny then, just eager to leave home. When they first married, they rented a little apartment right off Broadway near 34th Street. It was nice to have a place that she could keep clean and cook in and enjoy without her mother's breakdown floating around her. Sonny was her passage out of darkness, but before long, her appreciation turned into love. So when he asked her to leave Louisville and move back to opulence with him, she said yes. Without hesitation, she said yes. And this reading is from The Birds of Opulence.
So anyone who still wants to read, it's okay if you didn't sign up. We still have time left, about 20 minutes for anyone who wants to read. Sharon, you got one? All right. Well, we want to, in that case, unless you want Justice to do more poems.
Clarification, is that John Lewis's, I have but a minute?
That is Benjamin Elijah Mays. Benjamin Elijah Mays was president of Morehouse.
Okay.
And a lot of people have taken that poem and reset it since then. I don't know how long ago he died, but he was the president like mid 20th century. You said 1985? Okay, so yeah. All right, well, I want to thank you all for coming. This was a great event. I'm glad that we got to experience so much great art and poetry. If you have any last announcements you want to make about what's upcoming. Oh.
You just want to let folks know that's what's check out today.
So the library brought and put on display books that are in, they're already in display normally in the BCS section of the library, and they're on display here. You can check them out. You can just go look at them if you want to. Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you.
Okay.
We want to thank Bees Catering. So if you are looking for a caterer, please partner with a great community partner, Louisville Seminary, Bees Catering. We also want to acknowledge and thank the Vision and Values Committee. If you're here from that committee, Wave your hand, we have a few people. Thank you, lots of planning, certainly great partnering with Vision Valley and the BCS. I want to thank the BCS team. Also communications, we are so grateful for Cassie and Karen and Rebecca. They've been working very hard this past month and always, but we want to thank all members of our seminary community that continue to support all the great programming. We have a lot happening here at Louisville Seminary, but it's wonderful to know that we value a diverse group of programs that we have here throughout the seminary community. Also wanted to acknowledge that earlier today we had a wonderful experience day, so we want to thank Andrew for his great leadership with Alex and so many others. So we want to thank you as well. And we have some students who are potential students who are visiting with us. We won't ask you to stand, but if you're here, you can just wave your hand. We have a few. Grateful. So it has been a full day, but I pray that you all have a wonderful weekend and get some rest. It's going to be a busy week next week. But we look forward to seeing all of you. And thank you, Dr. Reed, for your partnership.
Thank you, everybody.